And continues today. Agony for youth after Ruto visit. For context, 50 suspects arrested in a police crackdown in Isiolo town on Saturday, hours after President Ruto's meeting was marred by heckling, were yesterday arraigned amid protests by relatives and human rights activists who accused the government of intimidation and harassment. The story goes on to talk about how they were, later released. One was released on a cash bail of 5,000 shillings, but they were released unconditionally and warned against lawlessness after pleading guilty to the charges. So charges...
what were the charges?
The charges included, here we go. So there was the heckling, but more than that, there was the obstructing of the presidential motorcade on February 7th. That was especially something that was mentioned. So it was obstructing of the presidential motorcade. They cited security issues and cited disrespect. Not that was a charge, but that was something that was amplified along with the charge. So Shuaib Yusuf, who pled guilty to the charge of stopping in the middle of the road, thereby obstructing the presidential motorcade, was released on a cash bail of 5,000 shillings, and he was charged with committing the offense while driving a tuk-tuk.
Okay.
And we can see pictures of them in the law courts yesterday. But as mentioned, they were just released with a warning. And I think this also, arresting them being arraigned in court, is a warning.
So this one guy is the one who was released on, who was charged with obstructing because he had a tuk-tuk. The others, drunk and disorderly. That was the charge.
That was the charge.
Yeah. And I think to prove a drunk and disorderly charge, you'd have to have a breathalyzer or a blood test, right? I don't know if that was carried out, because how else do you prove drunk and disorderly?
Yeah. The case did not go to the level of proving.
Yeah.
They were like, it's okay. Yes.
So what was the plan here?
They are sending a strong message about anybody trying to carry out, quote unquote, maybe I shouldn't, disorderly behavior, heckling, obstruction during a presidential visit. So it remains to be seen whether this is also going to mitigate anything in the future. As we've said before, there's been so many people, calling out during presidential visits. They haven't really hidden how they feel. Right. But this is really one of the times that the president has flexed his muscle and said, Mtaona, I dare you to do it again. So
it is, to me, it's harassment, right? Intimidation, like you said, flexing of a little muscle. But what precedent does it set? Is it illegal to heckle a president? Is it illegal to heckle anyone? It could be disorderly, it could be considered rude, etc. But illegal or warranting an arrest, I don't think so. Obstructing a presidential motorcade, that's fine. That's a security issue. And he pleaded guilty, and that has,
I'm not sure that we can say it's not illegal.
How is it not
to heckle?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you've read the penal code. Remember, we had a lawyer here last week.
Right.
She told us some of those things in the penal code. If trying to commit a suicide is illegal,
what else is deemed illegal?
There's a charge in the penal code called drunk and disorderly. There's another one called causing disturbance and all those things. So basically, in our penal code, and that's why Parliament now has the job of actually revising the penal code. There are some very many charges that were inherited from the colonial era, and that was because you wanted to make sure that contain the population.
And as she mentioned, some of them are very ambiguous and vague. Who's the one who decides what is disorderly? Right. Sometimes it's outrightly so. So yeah, to your point, it is in the penal code, but again, it's too broad, and sometimes it's weaponized.
True.
If it serves me, I will say
I will check it and use it.
I want to
just that one of just loitering.
Yes. What is loitering?
Well, and being a vagabond.
Yes.
Right? The words already tell you this comes from our, our British...
It's from an era. So it's there. Right now, as we see it, it's there in our laws.
Yes.
The sensibility of it...
It may not
be... a whole other question.
I know we're going to move over to Eric and Mariam. Another few interesting stories on the Daily Nation. Cash bouquets on the rise as women fall out of love with flowers.
That one, I think we need a bit of time to dissect.
We're going to dissect that.
Right?
But it does talk about this. And it's on the front page and a pretty big coverage on page 2.
Okay.
And
I was just laughing because I saw, literally yesterday, I saw someone get a bouquet of 50,000 shillings in 50 bobs. Do you know how many?
Yes.
Yes.
And they're kind of like combining that with flowers, and they're saying it's just an elevated.
So this is what now guys people are going for now.
Yes, as opposed to a bouquet of flowers or with the bouquet
Eric
of flowers.
Eric is like, at least now. The
They
person
keep
I give
shifting this
flowers
goalpost.
will still accept my flowers.
They keep shifting this goalpost. You find a plug at City Market who gives you nice roses. Sasa ni pesa tena.
Okay.
Like just when you think you have it down.
Yes.
But there's quite a few more
Backpage.
stories. Yeah.
Backpage is a good one. AGOA may not survive Trump. Kitui warns. We had Dr. Muhisa Kitui with us in studio yesterday and talked in a larger context about the USAID freeze and about Trump really flexing his muscle and saying, we are going to put our citizens first. And so yesterday, he said the extension of AGOA hangs in the balance, with the U.S. likely to end the program that has greatly benefited Kenya and other African countries. And he mentioned this, saying, can we not forget AGOA? Yes, we know that these other freezes are integral. You guys are really failing to understand how critical it will be if indeed President Trump decides that AGOA hangs in the balance, and the risk that African countries may lose duty-free access in the U.S. markets has grown exponentially. And so he said the U.S. wants stricter rules of origin to prevent companies from importing textiles, China, India, and labeling them as made in Africa. So he mentioned a lot of critical points about what we need to look at, what are the low-hanging fruits, what are the stopgap measures, but also broader picture is what it is that we really stand to lose as a continent.
Very scary there that, people have been importing into the US from other markets with the label made in Africa. And it's not something that we are really in a position to stop. But of course, it does put AGOA in the balance. But yeah, I think it's a good conversation to have. What happens should this deal should AGOA not be extended? What does that mean for our export to the US? What does that mean for the Kenya shilling? What does that mean for the thousands of businesses that are reliant on this and the economy as a whole? Kama kawaida, every tiny thing that happens has such a ripple effect that sometimes we don't see in the immediate